Hello students, welcome to the topic of monitoring and evaluation. As part of this, the first lesson is about the conceptual part of monitoring and evaluation. In this, we have three modules. Module 1, Importance and Meaning of Monitoring and Evaluation in Development Projects or Programs. Module 2, Components of Monitoring and Evaluation. Module 3, Position of monitoring and evaluation in project cycle. Monitoring and evaluation is a process to assess and improve the performance of the projects or the programs set by various organizations that can be either government or non-government. This process is not just a part of the project but is carried out throughout the project. This process helps to better results for the present project as well as serves for future projects. These are used to assess the set objectives or the targets of the project. In project management, these are the essential tools used to facilitate in problem solving and decision making. Constant maintenance and change management occurs through this system. While some stakeholders or the funders may require a certain type of monitoring and evaluation process, the greatest beneficiaries of this process are the customers who use the product or the community of people for whom the organization works. Let us see the meaning of monitoring. Monitoring is the systematic collection and analysis of information as a project progresses. It is aimed at improving the efficiency and effectiveness of a project or organization. It is based on targets set and activities planned during the planning phase of work. It helps to keep the work on track and can let management know when things are going wrong. If done properly, it is an invaluable tool for good management and it provides a useful base for evaluation. It enables you to determine whether the resources you have available are sufficient and are being well used, whether the capacity you have is sufficient and appropriate, and whether you are doing what you plan to do. In other words, monitoring is the systematic and continuous collecting, analysis and using of information for the purpose of management control and decision making in the developing project. In this case, data is collected throughout the life cycle of the project. The data collection tools are usually embedded into the project activities in order to ensure that the process is seamless. Now, let us see the meaning of evaluation. Evaluation is the comparison of actual project impacts against the agreed strategic plans. It looks at what you set out to do, at what you have accomplished, and how you accomplished it. It can be formative, that is, taking place during the life of a project or organization with the intention of improving the strategy or way of functioning of the project or organization. It can also be summative, that is, drawing learns from a completed project or an organization that is no longer functioning. Someone once described this as the difference between a checkup and an autopsy. So, we can say that evaluation is the systematic and objective assessment of an ongoing or completed project or program along with its design, implementation and results. The main aim is to fulfill the objectives, development efficiency, effectiveness, impact and sustainability. It should provide the information that is reliable, credible and useful for the development of the project and to document for future enhancement in the project. What monitoring and evaluation have in common is that they are geared towards learning from what you are doing and how you are doing it, that is by focusing on efficiency and effectiveness. Efficiency. Efficiency tells you that the input into the work is appropriate in terms of the output. This could be input in terms of money, time, staff, equipment and so on. When you run a project and are concerned about its replicability, then it is very important to get the efficiency element. Effectiveness. Effectiveness is a measure of the extent to which a development program or project achieves the specific objectives it set. If, for example, we set out to improve the qualification of all the high school teachers in a particular area, did we succeed in achieving it? Hence, from this it should be clear that monitoring and evaluation are best done when there has been proper planning against which to assess progress and achievements. Some of the most confused terminologies in the monitoring and evaluation system are the words inputs, activities, outputs, outcomes, and impact. Inputs. Inputs in simple terms are those things that we use in the project to implement it. For example, in any project, inputs would include things like human resource, finances in the form of money, machinery such as vehicles, and equipment such as public address systems, among others. Inputs ensure that it is possible to deliver the intended results of a project. Activities. Activities, on the other hand, are actions associated with delivering project goals. In other words, they are what the personnel or employees do in order to achieve the aims of the project. Next, outputs. These are the first level of results associated with the project, often confused with activities. Outputs are the direct immediate term results associated with the project. Outcome. This is the second level of results associated with the project, and it refers to the medium term consequences of the project. Outcomes usually relates to the project goal or aim. For example, in a safe water project, an outcome would be the percentage of the households that are using chlorinated drinking water. Next is impact. It is the third level of project results, and it is the long-term consequence of a project. Most often than not, it is very difficult to ascertain the exclusive impact of a project, since several other projects not similar in nature can lead to the same impact. An example of an impact would be reduced poverty rates, reduced child mortality rates, among others. Impact tells you whether or not what you did made a difference to the problem situation you were trying to address. In other words, was your strategy useful? Before you decide to replicate the project elsewhere, you need to be sure that what you are doing makes sense in terms of the impact you want to achieve. Components of monitoring and evaluation. Monitoring and evaluation system requires 12 main components in order to function effectively and efficiently to achieve the desired results. M&E is the short form of monitoring and evaluation. Now let us see the 12 main components. First is organizational structures with M&E functions. The adequate implementation of M&E at any level requires a unit whose main purpose is to coordinate all the M&E functions at its level. While some organizations prefer to have an internal unit to oversee its M&E functions, others prefer to outsource such services. This component of M&E emphasizes the need for M&E unit within the organization, how elaborate its roles are defined, how adequately its roles are supported by the organization's hierarchy, and how other units within the organization are aligned to support the M&E functions within the organization. The next component is human element for M&E. An effective M&E implementation requires adequate staff employed in the M&E unit with well-equipped technical knowledge and experience. As such, this component emphasizes the need to have the necessary human resource that can run the M&E function by hiring employees who have adequate knowledge and experience in M&E implementation, while at the same time ensuring that the M&E capacity of these employees are continuously developed through training and other capacity building initiatives to ensure that they keep up with current and emerging trends in the field. The third is partnerships for planning, coordinating and managing the monitoring and evaluation system. A prerequisite for successful monitoring and evaluation system, whether at organizational or national level, is the existence of monitoring and evaluation partnerships. Partnerships for M&E systems are for organizations because they complement the organization's M&E efforts in the M&E process. They act as a source of verification for whether M&E functions align to intended objectives. They also serve auditing purpose, where technical working groups, communities and other stakeholders are able to compare M&E outputs with reported outputs. The fourth component is logical framework or M&E framework. The M&E framework outlines the objectives, inputs, outputs and outcomes of the intended project and the indicators that will be used to measure all these. It also outlines the assumptions that the M&E system will adopt. The M&E framework is essential as it links the objectives with the process and enables the M&E expert to know what to measure and how to measure it. The next component is monitoring and evaluation work plan and costs. Closely related to the monitoring and evaluation frameworks is the monitoring and evaluation work plan and costs. While the framework outlines objectives, inputs, outputs and outcomes of the intended project, the work plan outlines how the resources that have been allocated for the M&E functions will be used to achieve the goals of M&E. The work plan shows how personnel, time, material and money will be used to achieve the set monitoring and evaluation functions. The next component is communication, advocacy and culture for monitoring and evaluation system. This refers to the presence of policies and strategies within the organization to promote M&E functions. Without continuous communication and advocacy initiatives within the organization to promote M&E, it is difficult to entrench the M&E culture within the organization. Such communication and strategies need to be supported by the organization's hierarchy. The existence of an organizational M&E policy together with the continuous use of the M&E system outputs on communication channels are some of the ways of improving communication, advocacy and culture for M&E. The next component is routine program monitoring. Monitoring component emphasizes the importance of monitoring. Monitoring refers to the continuous and routine data collection that takes place during project implementation. Data need to be collected and reported on a continuous basis to show whether the project activities are driving towards meeting the set objectives. They also need to be integrated into the program activities for routine gathering and analysis. The next component is surveys and surveillance. This involves majorly the national level monitoring and evaluation plans and entails how frequently relevant national surveys are conducted in the country. National surveys and surveillance needs to be conducted frequently and used to evaluate progress of related projects. For example, for HIV and AIDS national M&E plans, HIV related surveys to be conducted or carried biannually and used to measure HIV indicators at the national level. The next component is national and subnational databases. The data world is gradually becoming open source. More and more entities are seeking data that are relevant for their purposes. The need for M&E systems to make data available can therefore not be overemphasized. This implies that M&E systems need to develop strategies of submitting relevant, reliable and valid data to national and subnational databases. The next component is supportive supervision and data auditing. Every monitoring and evaluation system needs a plan for supervision and data auditing. Supportive supervision implies that an individual or organization is able to supervise regularly the monitoring and evaluation process in such a way that the supervisor offers suggestions on ways of improvement. Data auditing implies that the data is subjected to verification to ensure its reliability and validity. Supportive supervision is important since it ensures the M&E process to run successfully or efficiently, while data auditing is crucial since all project decisions are based on the data collected. The next component is evaluation and research. One aspect of M&E is research, the other is evaluation. Evaluation of projects is done at specific times, most often midterm and at the end of the project. Evaluation is an important component of M&E as it establishes whether the project has met the desired objectives. It usually provides for organizational learning and sharing of successes with other stakeholders. The next component is data dissemination and use. The information that is gathered during the project implementation phase needs to be used to inform future activities, either to reinforce the implemented strategy or to change it. Additionally, results of both monitoring and evaluation outputs need to be shared to relevant stakeholders for accountability purposes. Organizations must therefore ensure that there is an information dissemination plan either in the M&E plan, work plan or both. In this, let us see where monitoring and evaluation stands in the project cycle. First, let us see what is a project. A project is a temporary endeavour with a set of interrelated activities to create a product or service within a stipulated time. A project cycle is a tool for understanding the tasks and functions that are carried out throughout the project. Commonly, the project cycle consists of identification, design, implementation, monitoring and evaluation. Ideally, there is no generic form of project cycle explicitly, as the monitoring and evaluation should be considered right from the beginning of the project. Let us see the phases. First, identification. This is the phase where the actual problem is identified. It is based on the literature review such as the previous projects, market survey or other related information available for the project, the stakeholder analysis and need of the intervention. This phase itself is the outset of monitoring and evaluation. The next phase is design phase. In this phase, the logic is clarified based on tools like log frame matrix. Hence, it is the appropriate phase to develop a monitoring and evaluation plan to clearly focus on what to monitor and evaluate. It should answer questions like what strategy can achieve required objectives, and if it does not, then what are the alternatives. The next is implementation phase. This is the phase where the design phase is put to action. The staff members work on the interventions. They try to resolve problems, set alternative methods obtained from collecting the information through monitoring and evaluation plan. If the monitoring and evaluation plan is not prepared in the design phase, then it can be done even in this phase. The next phase is evaluation. As the project gets to complete, the summary of the project helps to evaluate the project outcomes and results. Evaluation reports containing the questionnaires, audits are prepared and used for future projects. This is all about the conceptual part of monitoring and evaluation. Any questions?
What happens if there is no monitoring and evaluation system?
Monitoring and evaluation is a process to assess and improve the performance of a project. If the system does not exist, then there is no certainty of producing the expected results of the project. The problems that occur in the project will not have solutions. Testing occurs only if there is monitoring and evaluation, and hence the result or the product. Any more questions? Okay. Hence we conclude the conceptual part of monitoring and evaluation. Thank you.